Hello everyone. Now we're going to look at this Chandra deck that I've put together. It's basically, we don't call it Chandra Tribal, but that's basically what it is. Of course, we built with our commander as Chandra, the Fire of Kaladesh. This, of course, flips into the Planeswalker side, which we'll look at. But whenever you cast a red spell, you get to untap this, and then you tap it to deal 1 damage. Now, you have to flip it by dealing 3 or more damage in the same turn. So, when we flip her, we'll just leave her on this side for right now. We have Chandra, the Roaring Flame. Her +1 deals 2 damage to target player, -2 deals 2 damage to a creature, and then her ultimate deals 6 damage to each opponent, and each player that's dealt damage this way gets an emblem with at the beginning of your upkeep, that emblem deals 3 damage to you. So they get the emblem, and it deals damage to them each turn. Obviously, this is going to be a very, very direct damage heavy deck. There are not very many creatures. I have almost every Chandra Planeswalker in here. I did actually have all of them at one point, but I ended up cutting 1 or 2 of them. So there's our Chandra commander, and we're going to go ahead and look at all of our other Planeswalkers as well. So we're going to start with Chandra, Fire Artisan from War of the Spark. She also has a static ability that whenever 1 or more loyalty counters are removed from her, she deals that much damage to target opponent or Planeswalker. So when you finally do get her up enough to 7 to use her ultimate, you can also deal 7 damage as well. And then you may play any of the cards that you exile from the top of your library with this last ability. Next, we have Chandra Ablaze. +1 discards a card, and if it's red, deals 4 damage to target creature or player. -2, each player discards his or her hand, then draws 3 cards. So that could be devastating in itself, just the discard part. And then her ultimate, you cast any number of red instant or sorcery spells from your graveyard without paying their mana cost. That can be very devastating in this deck. We have quite a few instants and sorceries. Then we have Chandra Nalar. She deals 1 damage to target player, deals X damage to target creature, deals 10 damage to target player and each creature he or she controls. That could be a board wipe. I mean, honestly, how often do you see creatures with more than 10 power out? Not very often. Then we have Chandra the Firebrand. Deals 1 damage to target creature or player. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell, copy it. And in the ultimate, she deals 6 damage to each of up to 6 target creatures and or players. Let's move these. There we go. Then we have Chandra Flamecaller. You get to put two 3/1 red elementals with haste on the battlefield, and you exile them at the beginning of the next end step. Discard all cards in your hands, then draw that many. This can be very helpful in this deck because there's not a lot of card draw necessarily. So if you've got a hand full of, just useless stuff, you can get rid of it and draw new stuff. And then -X deals X damage to each creature. So again, that also could be a board wipe. Then we have Chandra Pyromancer. Deals 1 damage to target player and 1 damage to up to 1 target creature that player controls. That creature cannot block. That's very helpful. If you want to say, hey, you can't use that creature. Exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn. So really, that just gives you a slight card advantage. You're not getting to draw the card, but you are gaining access to it to play it. And then her ultimate, exile the top 10 cards of your library. You choose an instant or sorcery spell exiled this way and copy it 3 times. And then you cast it without paying the cost. So you get to copy something 3 times. Of course, most of our spells, our instants or sorcery spells in this deck are damage dealing. So can be very, very devastating. Then we have Chandra, Acolyte of Flame. She doesn't have a plus ability, but the first one technically does put loyalty counters on not only her, but any of our Chandra Planeswalkers, which, as you see, we have quite a few. Her second ability makes 2 1/1 elementals. They gain haste, and you sack them at the beginning of the end step. And then her ultimate, you may cast target instant or sorcery spell with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard, and then you exile it. And I guess I really shouldn't call it her ultimate necessarily. It's just her last ability. And then we have Chandra, the Awakened Inferno. It cannot be countered. Her plus ability, we don't see this very often, but her plus ability actually gives the emblems that deal 1 damage. It's only 1 damage, but still, it can add up. You can give multiple emblems to deal damage. -3 deals 3 damage to each non-elemental creature. So this would be really good in a like an elemental tribal deck. And then her ultimate, you -X, and she deals X damage to target creature or player. Creature or planeswalker. If a permanent dealt damage this way would die, exile it. So very, very powerful. And then we have Chandra, Torch of Defiance. Got the awesome spellbook version of this. I just love. I mean, the border's cool, yes, but the gold for the planeswalker symbols, and then the flame down at the bottom. We'll see some more of this in a minute. I actually have the lands. All of our mountains are the special showcases from M21. But anyway, her first plus ability is you exile the top card from your library. You may cast it, and if you don't cast it, she deals 2 damage to each opponent. The other plus ability, which is the one that I normally use, you add 2 red mana to your mana pool. Her -3 deals 4 damage to target creature, and then her ultimate, you get the emblem this time. This is very, very critical too with one of our other cards in here. It says that you get the emblem. Whenever you cast a spell, that emblem deals 5 damage to any target. So we'll go over that in a minute. We'll leave her right here. Then we have Chandra, the Heart of Fire. Discard your hand, then exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them. Her other +1 deals 2 damage to any target, and then her ultimate, you search your graveyard and your library for any number of red instants or sorcery cards. Exile them, then shuffle your library, and then you may cast them this turn. And then you also get to add 6 red mana. So also very powerful. Most of our Chandras, I mean, their ultimates are extremely powerful. Now we have the Planeswalker deck versions. All these will be foils from the Planeswalker decks. Pyrogenius deals 2 damage to each opponent, deals 4 damage to target creature, and then her ultimate deals 6 damage to target player and each creature he or she controls. So again, another possible board wipe. Bold Pyromancer. I remember, side note, I remember this one being very sought after, or at least I was excited about it. This Planeswalker deck had the reprint from Dominaria where with Gilded Lotus already in it. So I mean, yes, obviously you could just buy the single Gilded Lotus, but for me, a Chandra fan, I'm gonna buy the Chandra deck anyway. Oh, cool! I get a Gilded Lotus that I can put in one of my other decks that needs it. So anyway, first ability: add 2 red mana, deals 2 damage to any target. Deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker, and the ultimate deals 10 damage to target player and each creature and planeswalker. Deals 10 damage to each player and each creature and planeswalker they control. So that one can be very devastating. Then we have Chandra Flame's Fury. Deals 2 damage to any target. Deals 4 damage to target creature and 2 damage to that creature's controller. And then her ultimate deals 10 damage to target player and each creature that player controls. So again, another board wipe effect. And then the latest one from M21, Flame's Catalyst. Deals 3 damage to each opponent. You may cast target red instant or sorcery card from your graveyard. If that spell would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. And then her ultimate is discard your hand and then draw 7 cards. Until the end of turn, you may cast spells from your hand without paying their mana cost. So the casting them from your hand without paying their mana cost, that can be very, very devastating. So again, those are all of our planeswalkers, of course, and then we have our commander that starts off as a creature and switches into our planeswalker. So let's look at the next set. Alright, now we're going to look at our creatures. As I mentioned earlier, we don't have very many creatures. We're not really looking to turn sideways too often, but we do want to have them out in order to defend A, our life total, and B, our other planeswalkers. So we'll start with Chandra Spitfire. And what I like is, even in the other version of this card, like Chandra's right in the foreground, but in this one, you see her, she's kind of just chilling out here in the back. It's got flying. When an opponent is dealt non-combat damage, the Spitfire gets +3/+0 till end of turn. So that can get beefed up very, very fast, because we are going to be casting lots of red spells that just cause damage, but not combat damage. Then we have Chandra's Phoenix with flying and haste. When an opponent is dealt damage by a red instant or sorcery spell that you control, or by a red planeswalker you control, return this from your graveyard to your hand. So this will be coming back to you quite frequently. Then we have Chandra's Incinerator, got the neat showcase border. Or I guess that's what we're calling this, showcase, or we'll just call it a variant, I guess. This costs X less to cast, where X is the total amount of non-combat damage dealt to your opponents this turn. So this is normally a 5 and a red, so 6 mana altogether for a 6/6 with trample, mind you. A 6/6 for 6 with trample, that's not terrible by any means, but the fact that this can cost you up to only 1 red for a 6/6 trample is crazy. And it says, whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, Chandra's Incinerator deals that much damage to target creature or player. So this doesn't necessarily copy the spell, but it'll copy the damage. Then we have Avatar of Fury. This is probably our highest CMC card in the deck. If an opponent controls 7 or more lands, this costs 6 less to cast. So more often than not, you're going to be getting this a little bit later in the game. I mean, obviously you could draw it firsthand, but that would not be very ideal. You get a 6/6 flyer for 2 red, and then it's got fire breathing at the bottom. Obsidian Fireheart. It's another elemental. We do have... I didn't follow the elemental tribal. I wanted to at first, and just ended up not doing it. But there are some in here, of course. Let's see. Yeah, that's just a Phoenix. I thought it was an elemental Phoenix, but I was wrong. You pay 1 and 2 red. You put a blaze counter on target land without one. And for as long as that land has a blaze counter on it, it has, at the beginning of your upkeep, this land deals 1 damage to you. So there's another way for us to just start pinging people for damage. Then we have Malignus. It is one of our elementals. Its power and toughness are each equal to half the highest life total among your opponents, rounded up. So, then it says damage that would be dealt by Malignus cannot be prevented. So this, in a game of Commander, can be absolutely nuts. You know, you get it out before there's a whole lot of damage done, or any damage at all. You get a 20/20 for 5. I mean, you can't beat that. Then we have Drakuseth, the Maw of Flames. For 7, you get a 7/7 flyer. And whenever it attacks, it deals 4 damage to any target. So just declaring attack deals 4 damage to a target, and then 3 damage to each of up to 2 other targets. So you swing in with this, you go in with this, you get to hit your opponent and 2 of their creatures, or 3 of their creatures, or the opponent you're attacking, and another opponent. It doesn't matter. You can literally deal damage to 3 different things. Then we have the classic Gutter Snipe, or not the classic one, but whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. So we definitely want that out when we start slinging our red damage spells. Then we have Electrostatic Field. This, of course, is not out for attacking. This is just for extra damage. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Just whittle them away. And last, we have the Fire Elemental. Just a vanilla 5/4 for 5. Doesn't cause any extra damage or anything like that, but it is an elemental, so that helps out a little bit. Let's go through and see. I hadn't even checked to see how many elementals we had. Oop. Dragon, elemental there, elemental, avatar, elemental, phoenix, and elemental. So 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, we do have 5 elementals out. Again, not trying to go for an elemental sub-theme at all, but it just so happens that a lot of the creatures that synergize with Chandra very well happen to be elementals. Alright, so let's go on to the next section. Now we're going to look at our enchantments. There are very few enchantments, but the ones that we have, or some of the ones that we have, are very, very powerful. We have Oath of Chandra. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 3 damage to target creature an opponent controls. So 3 damage for 2, not bad. And at the beginning of the end step, if a Chandra Planeswalker entered the battlefield under your control this turn, deals 2 damage to each opponent. So chances are we're going to be playing a Chandra Planeswalker. I mean, obviously not every turn, but the chance is very high. Then we have Leyline of Combustion. If we have it in our opening hand, we can go ahead and start the game with it on the field. Whenever you or at least one permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability that an opponent controls, this deals 2 damage to that player. So if they want to start targeting you or any of your stuff, they're still going to take some damage. Yes, this is the big hitter. Fiery Emancipation. 6 is a little steep, but what it does is anytime a source that you control would deal damage to any permanent or player, it deals triple that damage to that permanent or player instead. So the big hitter would be Chandra. If we can get off that emblem at the bottom, not only will it deal triple the damage from the spell that we cast. Let's say we cast Classic Instant Lightning Bolt, does 3 damage, so that's going to be 9 damage, plus another 5 for this, but it's also tripled, so 15. 15 from the emblem, 9 from the spell itself. You're hitting 24 damage for one spell. It's insane. So again, that's why this has to be in here, because it will severely increase your damage. And then last, we have Double Vision. Whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery, copy it. So this is just to make copies of our other spells. You have this out with Fiery Emancipation, you can knock people out, I mean, in one turn. As long as you've got enough mana and enough spells, it wouldn't be a problem at all. Okay, now we're going to take a look at our instants. We do have quite a few here, as well as our sorceries. First off is Chandra's Fury. Deals 4 damage to target player and 1 damage to each creature that player controls. And then I do love the flavor text. They started it. That's just a very Chandra hothead thing. So I do appreciate that quite a bit. But the 4 damage to a target player, that itself is good. And if they've got a lot of low-level creatures with only 1 toughness, then this could potentially be a board wipe. Then we have Chandra's Triumph. Deals 3 damage to a target creature or planeswalker that an opponent controls. Deals 5 damage to that permanent instead if you have a Chandra Planeswalker, which more often than not we will. Then we have Chandra's Outrage. Deals 4 damage to target creature and 2 damage to that creature's controller. And again, all of these are affected by Fiery Emancipation. If we can have that enchantment out, it triples everything. Then we have Chandra's Pyrohelix. Deals 2 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 targets. We have Fall of the Titans. Deals X damage to each of up to 2 target creatures or players. or players. You want to pay its surge cost, though. You may cast it for its surge if you or a teammate has cast another spell this turn. So you don't want to cast this first thing. You want to wait and cast something else first. Then we have Flame Lash. Deals 4 damage to target creature or player. So 4 damage for 4 mana. It's not terrible, but you still definitely want to try to get out Fiery Emancipation as soon as possible. Then we have Pyroblast. Lets us counter a target blue spell or destroy a blue permanent. Again, love the flavor text. Told you it would melt. I mean, that's just Chandra's answer for everything. Fire. I mean, this is one of the reasons Chandra is my favorite Planeswalker. I am a bit of a Nicol Bolas fanboy, not going to lie, but Chandra was my favorite Planeswalker from the beginning. So whenever I got the idea to build this, I was like, hey, this is going to be a great idea. We're going to have a deck that just does nothing but burn things. No, it's not always ideal, but it's fun. That's why I built it. It's fun. It does play pretty well for the most part. We have Ravaging Blast. Deals X damage to target creature. For the spell mastery, if there are 2 or more instant or sorcery cards in your graveyard, it also deals X damage to that creature's controller. Very devastating. Then we have Incinerate, deals 3 damage to target creature or player. A creature that's dealt damage that way cannot be regenerated. Reverberate, another copy spell. Searing Wind, so this is a little steep. 9 mana total, but it deals 10 damage to target creature or player. So, we could end up copying this somehow with Fiery Emancipation out. 30 damage to each of your opponents. I mean, you give the... it's going to have to be a couple of turns in because you got to get up to 9 mana at least. But, you know, once that happens, very, very potential in-game card right there. Then we have Volcanic Geyser, or Geyser, however you prefer. Deals X damage to target creature or player. Repeated Reverberation. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell, or activate a loyalty ability, you copy it twice. So that would go well with our Searing Wind over here. But it also works for... It also works for our Planeswalker abilities. Then we have Electro Dominance. This is a fun one because you get to deal damage and then play a card for free. You pay X and 2 red, it deals X damage, and then you may cast a card with converted mana cost X or less. So it basically gives you that card for free. Then we have Comet Storm. Choose target creature or player, then choose another target creature or player for each time it was kicked. Multi-kicker, it's only got 1 for the kick. So let's say I want to deal 5 damage. You pay 5 and 2 red. Oh, but I want to deal that 5 to everybody, so I'll pay an extra 2 to deal 5 to everyone. And again, Fiery Emancipation makes everything lethal. And then we have Lightning Bolt. You heard me mention this earlier. I had to go for the classic art. Yes, the Secret Lair drops came out with it recently, where you get 4 different arts. But I like the original. It's just classic. 1 red deals 3 damage to any one target. And then we have Shock. Very similar, just deals 2 damage to any one target. So those are our instant spells. Those are what we're going to be primarily using to sling out some damage in this deck. Now we're going to take a look at our sorceries. Very similar to our instants, most of these are what are going to be causing most of our damage. So we'll start with Chandra's Ignition. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to each other creature and opponent. So probably not our best go-to card simply because we don't have a lot of creatures, but we did have Malignus, and Malignus can have a very, very high power. Then we have Chandra's Flame Wave. This is one of the, I don't want to call it, oh yeah, it's kind of a tutor. Or yeah, it is. You always have your Planeswalker decks that come with the Planeswalker exclusive cards, and most often they're either a sorcery or an instant that lets you get that Planeswalker into your hand from the deck or from the graveyard. So this is the one from M20. Deals 2 damage to target player and each creature that player controls. Search your library or graveyard for Chandra Flame's Fury, put it in your hand, and of course shuffle your deck. Then we have Chandra's Outburst. This would be the one for Dominaria. Deals 4 damage to target player or Planeswalker. Search your graveyard or deck for Bold Pyromancer. Then we have Chandra's Revolution. Deals 4 damage to target creature. You tap target land, and that land doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Real basic. Some people may have some pesky lands like a strip mine. You don't want them to use it, tap it down. Or, force them to use it, I guess. Then we have Past in Flames. Each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback until the end of turn. The flashback cost is equal to its mana. And then you can also flash this back, which just basically lets us recast anything out of our graveyard for that one turn. Then we have Flames of the Firebrand. Deals 3 damage divided as you choose among 1, 2, or 3 target creatures and or players. So this will just let you divvy out damage however you want to. Then we have Liberating Combustion. This would be the Planeswalker deck card from Kaladesh. Deals 6 damage to target creature, and you search out Chandra Pyrogenius. Then we have Incendiary Flow. Deals 3 damage to target creature or player. If a creature dealt damage this way would die, exile it. Then we have Fiery Confluence. You choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. You can either deal 1 damage to each creature, 2 damage to each opponent, or destroy an artifact. You can either, you can pick, like it says, you can choose 3. You can choose the same mode more than once. So I could deal 3 damage to a creature, or each creature, excuse me. I could deal 6 damage to each opponent, or destroy 3 artifacts. More often than not, you're going to want to go for the middle one, especially if you have, of course, Fiery Emancipation out. Then we have Exquisite Firecraft. Deals 4 damage to target creature or player. Spell Mastery, though, if there are 2 or more instant or sorceries in your graveyard, it can't be countered by spells or abilities. Now, obviously, this is not Chandra, is it? No. But it does have a very Chandra effect. I mean, if memory serves correctly, Chandra looked up to Jaya. So, I thought it fit pretty well in here. In fact, I actually had a Jaya Planeswalker in here, but I decided to remove it. You can only cast this if you have a legendary creature or Planeswalker out. Deals X damage to each of up to 3 targets. Creatures, Planeswalkers, players, doesn't matter. You pump enough mana into this, it can be very, very powerful. I mean, just first of all, look at the art. That would be Jaya in the middle. And look at all the fire. It's an immolating inferno. Inferno being a large fire. So, very, very devastating. Then we have Double Cast. Lets us copy. Fireball. Another classic red spell. And no, don't start singing the song. I think of that every time I hear the word Fireball. And that bothers me. Does X damage. Rounded down. Divided evenly, round it down, among any number of targets. Pay 1 extra mana for each target beyond the first. So basically, sort of a multi-kicker kind of situation. I'll see if I can get a newer version pulled up over here with the updated Oracle text on it. And then last is Meteor Blast. Deals 4 damage to each of up to X targets and target creatures and or players. So this one right here. Similar to the rest, can deal a lot of damage around to different creatures and or players. So that was all of our sorceries. Now we'll look at our artifacts. We have very, very few artifacts. First one being Chandra's Regulator. Whenever you activate a loyalty ability of Chandra Planeswalker, you may pay 1. If you do, you can copy it. Then you can pay 1 and tap this to discard a mountain or red card and draw a card. So, if, maybe at the beginning of the game you've got, something really high cost in your hand, you want to just get rid of it, you can use it and turn it into card draw. Then we have Pyromancer's Goggles, very important in this deck. You tap it to add red mana to your mana pool, and when that 1 mana is spent to cast a red instant or sorcery, you copy it. So again, more copying. Then we have Pyromancer's Gauntlet. If a red instant or sorcery spell you control, or a red planeswalker you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals that much plus 2. Then we have Staff of the Flame Magus. Whenever you cast a red spell or a mountain enters the battlefield under your control, gain life. So we do have a way to gain life in here. And then last we have a artifact creature, the Diamond Mare. When it enters the battlefield, you choose color, obviously red. And whenever you cast a spell of that color, you gain life. So, again, more life gain for us. And that's it for our artifacts. Last thing for our cards, of course, is our lands. No special lands. We just have mountains. 35 of the showcase, or... I guess we'll call these showcase. 35 of the special mountains from M21. So that rounds up our land base. And... I mean, you don't really need too much fancy stuff for a red spell-slinging damage deck. So, that's all we have for lands. Alright, we're going to have a bonus section for this video. You may have noticed the playmat in the background. This is a Chandra playmat, but it's from a special set that only Chandra has right now. I have no idea if Wizards is planning on doing this for any other Planeswalker, although I think it would be a really cool idea if they did. But there's a Chandra accessories kit, and it comes with, of course, the playmat, which you can see here, and this is a stitched edge playmat, as you can see there. It's a stitched edge one, not just a normal one. You see I've got another playmat under here, and you can see the difference from a stitched edge and a regular playmat. You, of course, get your Chandra sleeves. These are Ultra Pro sleeves like normal. I believe it's the Chroma Fusion is what they call it. It does have a matte finish on the front, so it's not, glossy. And then has the artwork on the back, which I think is absolutely gorgeous. So you get a pack of 100 sleeves of that, perfect for Commander. Then, of course, we have our deck box. So this was a little different. The outside's white, and then all the fire is actually red. You see, there's a good mural of it on the back. And, of course, that comes with a divider in it as well with the same design on it. You also get one of these. Now, this one, I think it just had some damage on it from not from shipping, but it was just not the best quality at first, but it's okay. It's Chandra. Let's see, I forget what they call these things. I can't even remember, but having something like this is pretty cool because you can keep track of the counters on your Chandra. It only goes up to 9, but that's not that big a deal. And, of course, you have the life down here. This goes all the way up to 99. Put it back on 40. There we go. You also get, kind of pick up the camera here a little bit. There's a full view of the playmat. But if you look right behind that, well, you can see my screwdriver set over there. But anyway, also Optimus is hanging out over there. Found that at a garage sale recently. That's the 20th anniversary G1 Optimus. But anyway, enough of that. You also get this really cool box that everything comes in. It stores everything. You can put your deck box, if it'll open. I'm doing this one-handed here. There we go. It's got enough room. You put your deck box on this end, roll up your playmat, and it fits in here. And then you would have some room, to maybe put a small dice bag or, even some loose dice in there if you wanted to. But when I found out that this was being released, I immediately thought this has to go with my Chandra deck. There's no way that I can have a Chandra deck without having these really awesome Chandra accessories. I don't even remember how much I paid for it. I want to say it was around $25, maybe $30, maybe. But just that price itself, just for what you were getting, was a bargain. Playmat is anywhere between $15 to $25, depending on the playmat itself and where you're getting it from. Deck box run you about 10, we'll say $7 to $10-ish dollars. The sleeves, again, that's a pack of 100 sleeves. That'll run you between 10 and 15, especially for these Ultra Pro Chroma Fusion ones. And then I have no idea how much these are. I think you can buy little booster mystery packs of these for like $4 or $5 each. But again, total bargain, and it's on theme. Again, this deck is not built to be competitive. It's built for fun around my favorite Planeswalker. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Appreciate it. And be looking forward to more deck techs in the future.